Welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing, and no, it's not really there yet. I'll put it up there and show you. But what is the number one thing I ever bought in home brewing, being the most versatile thing I ever bought? Can do 7 different things. You can say 1 or 2 might be, a little overlapping, but 7 different things. The most versatile thing I ever bought. I use it almost every time I brew, and even when I'm not brewing, I can use it. Yeah, you're thinking, what the heck? I know, you're thinking his brew paddle. Love my brew paddle, love my new brew paddle. No, not my brew paddle. Don't forget, like, subscribe, keep sharing. I'm gonna give you some of the obvious ones, and I'm going to end with one of the most unobvious, or just something you just wouldn't even think of doing with the device. And you're gonna go, wow, it was almost designed like it could do that. Yeah, it was. So, without further ado, drum roll. I'd like to say it's nothing special, but it is special. But it's modest. 10-gallon Anvil brew kettle. I love to say nothing special, but it really is. There's so many things that were designed specifically for certain reasons, but it's a 10-gallon Anvil brew kettle. I'll get into the details of why I chose this here in a moment, because it'll give away one of them, and I don't want to give that away. So first, let's jump into the obvious. Number 1, it's a boil kettle. If you're going to go 2-3 pot system, it's a boil kettle. Great kettle, awesome kettle. I mean, just obvious. Number 2, brew in a bag. Something I was considering since I was having problems with something else. But you can do brew in a bag here, and you can transfer the wort to another system for boiling, or you can do your boil right here. That's where I said it a little overlap on a few. So number 2 is brew in a bag. Number 3, Sparge water. Yes, you can heat up your Sparge. Use that into your next system. Yeah, it's kind of big if I'm doing 1 gallons, but I have done it, and it will heat up really fast, especially if you have a really good, propane system. But yeah, so number 3 would be heat Sparge water. Number 4, I don't use it for this. Well, I do and I don't. I don't use it for the bottle part, but I use it for other things sometimes. Yeah, this is great for cleaning small items, equipment at the end of a brew day. You can clean the pot, kettle, however you want to call it. You can clean everything inside of here, and it just makes cleaning a lot easier. I would use a cheaper pot to clean your bottles. It's just kind of beneath this, the quality is just that good. So yeah, so number 4 would be cleaning bottles. Number 5, and this is hands down probably one of the number 2 reasons I use it as frequently, and I'll give you a number 1 here in a minute, but would be emergency boil kettle. Emergency boil kettle, which was the reason I initially bought it, and thinking I may end up going into a 2 or 3 pot system. But I had 2 grain fathers, and I had nothing but problems with those high density burners. I had errors, and when I wasn't having a problem with the grain fathers going off, I had power loss, whether it be a storm, lightning strike nearby, blown transformers, or just, JEA saying, we're gonna be proactive today. There's a storm 100 miles away. We're just gonna shut the power down for an hour. Yeah, so it happens. Internet too, very proactive. Yeah, I won't even go there. But needless to say, I have used this as an emergency boil kettle. Even with the Anvil, when I've had power loss, I can simply dump everything in here and the brew must go on. I've said that so many times, the brew must go on. My local home brew shop says so many people brew and have no backup plan. It kills me. And I'm like, yeah, I tell everybody, always, if you're gonna pitch this yeast, have a yeast for a backup plan. If I have a power loss, I got some propane. You got a good propane burner? You got a good kettle? You're set. Dump the wort, the brew must go on. So those are some of the top ones. Now, the one I use it for the most as of lately, but I still have it available as my boil kettle in case something happens, this would be number 6, is ice bath or chilled water, however you want to call it. I call it ice bath. But when I'm trying to chill Florida's hot tap water or semi-warm tap water, yeah, I get my wort down, I'm using my jaded Scylla, and I've used the Blickman's Therminator for this too, is that I'll run tap water, get the temperature down a little ways, put some ice water in here. I bought a cheap used or open box pump off Amazon for a little over 40 some dollars. I drop this beast in here and I just recirculate the water with ice water. I use that probably 4 out of 5 of my brews. You've seen me using this pot to get a nice ice bath going. And yes, I've done 2 jaded Scillas back to bath. The ice water does just fine. I don't need to get that much equipment out and work with that much equipment. But yeah, this pump, inexpensive. And that's number 6, ice bath. Number 7, and this is one I didn't actually know about initially, and this is something that Anvil specifically thought about when designing this thing. They call it FIAK, Ferment in a Kettle. I know you're like looking, really? We're doing like a sour? Well, you could, but no. Ferment in a kettle. Basically, you buy a little box. Comes with a little thing, which I'll tell you what that does here in a minute. The first thing that's obvious, you get yourself a bubbler. You don't have to drill any holes. This little rubber grommet pops right out. And when you pop that grommet out, you have the perfect opening for this grommet, which goes right in there, and your bubbler goes into that grommet. You can use a different bubbler if you don't like that kind. I'm not real partial to that kind, but yeah, that's it. So now that's your lid. I'm not done. I know you're like, what do you mean? Wait, what do you mean that's it? Yeah, I'll try to get that back in the hole afterwards. It's hard to do it and talk at the same time, you know what I'm saying? Although I just did it. Wasn't that hard. You have your Teflon washer. Some people may be familiar with this. So that way, the little spigot can turn. And you have the little 90-degree turn in there. That way you avoid picking up any kind of trub or yeast cake off the bottom, and you can get your liquid back out when you're moving it over to a keg or something like that. The other thing is you already have a temperature gauge, and this temperature gauge is set for 45 degrees to 220. So it can monitor lagers, ales, and boils. Yeah, well thought out. This little device here has a rubber seal and another rubber seal, and it has some grooves inside. What it does is you take the nut off of your temperature gauge and you screw this on and seal it down. That way you don't have any threads that could harbor any kind of bacteria or anything that could cause a problem with your fermentation. And I know you're thinking, and no, it does not do pressure fermentation. Get everything in there, you pitch your yeast, you put your lid on, and this is your seal. It goes all the way around and seals everything down. So that way you don't have to worry about oxygen getting in. And you're thinking, well, how do I know, if the bubbler's slow? Yeah. Buy yourself a tilt. Just throw a tilt hydrometer in there and rock on, or an RAPT hydrometer. Get yourself a good Wi-Fi or Bluetooth hydrometer and rock on. But yeah, so ferment in a kettle. I know, you're like, And that is hands down best investment I ever made. I know it's not super shiny. I didn't go cleaning it. I didn't think much about it when I was gonna do the video. I'm just, everybody needs a backup plan. And it's one of the cheapest investments I ever made as far as heavy equipment. And yeah, the little, I know you've seen these, there's no rivets inside. If you're buying another kettle, you're gonna have those little rivets on some of them, or something exposed that can hide things, which isn't really very sanitary, because if you're gonna ferment in it, you're gonna have a problem. Not to mention every time you go to do something, you're gonna have that stuff in there, which kind of bothers me anyways. But yeah, that's it. Down in the comments, let me know if anybody even imagined me saying brew kettle. Come on. It was probably the last thing on your mind. He's gonna say brew kettle. No, not even close. Don't forget, like, subscribe, keep sharing, and yes, I still love my brew paddles too. Thank you. Cheers.